Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to the special report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on the internet. Coming up in the show today, Valve delists the Digital Homicide games after a subpoena is received concerning a lawsuit of 100 Steam users for what they call personal injury. We're going to talk a good bit about the hilarity that is ensuing from this. My name is JD Shadow, and the special report starts now. Okay, so before I go into the story, please let me command you to do one thing. If you're not sitting down, do so, because you're gonna probably be falling over laughter once you hear about this. You know, Digital Homicide, the people who made the Soldering Gun, which was the worst game probably ever, and they stole a whole bunch of Google images, and you could probably see that just by looking at the game. If you bought the game, I'm sorry. And the people who are decided they want to sue Jim Sterling for saying the truth about it, and you could have your own opinions about how deserving he is of that, and he isn't deserving of any of that. So anyway, guess what they decided to do? They decided to want to sue 100 Steam users for $18 million. And somebody had the gall to give them permission to subpoena Valve to give them the identities of the 100 Steam users. Why, you may ask? Because apparently, according to TechRaptor, James Romney, who is the developer of Digital Homicide, I butchered his name, but I don't give a crap, filed a lengthy subpoena on September 12th, showed evidence that 100 different users on Steam who have made statements about the indie developer in the past. Romney, who collected numerous photographs of several Steam users speaking negatively about their products, is demanding $18 million by these 100 Steam users in damages for quote-unquote personal injury. Judge Eileen Willett sided with Romaine, granting him a subpoena for early discovery to uncover the Steam users' identities. The evidence presented included several scanned screenshots of Steam users accusing Digital Homicide of stealing assets for their games, as well as accusing the company as being quote con artists who quote-unquote stalk and harass anyone who voices their displeasure on them. Yeah, and that is hilarity in of itself, but it goes a little bit better because Valve decided to respond to this by doing the one thing they probably should have done right from the very beginning. Pull all of their games from Steam. I am serious, they have actually pulled about 15 or 20 or so games that they published onto Steam off of there, which includes but not limited to The Slaughtering Grounds, Wyatt Derp, Mini Attack Submarine, Wing Knight's Penetration, Krog Wars, Starship Nova Strike, Paranormal Psychosis, Operation Global Shield, Dungeons of Crankmore, and the list kind of goes on and on. Yes, they kept cranking out this garbage, and Doug Lombardi of Valve had this to say about what they did. Quote, Valve has stopped doing business with Digital Homicide but being hostile to Steam customers. But don't worry to those people who might have actually gotten curious and might have actually tried this game and gave them the money they didn't deserve. If you bought one of these games, I use game term usually, then you will not be affected. You will be able to play those games still in all of their horrible glory. And by the way, remember when I said that they were suing Jim Sterling? Well, they want more from him. It has rose from $10 million to $15 million. We are talking about the millions in dollars in these lawsuits. Okay, let me give you in short the TLDR before I go into any of the other rants I have about this, about what I think about this. Yeah, that's what I think about it, because Digital Homicide is probably going to get smacked down in court. Granted, if the judges do what they're supposed to do, which is in this case, why have they even given them a subpoena? Have they looked at these games? Have they seen what they have done? Have they seen how Digital Homicide is done, of what they've done to Jim Sterling and what they've done to several people on the Steam forums? I mean, seriously, here's basically what it comes down to. Digital Homicide is trying to censor negative reviews. That's it. That's all they're trying to do. And here is a person, here is a judge who is saying, yeah, we agree with you that you should be allowed to censor people's opinions, censor people's viewpoints, censor people's critiques about your work, as horrible as it may be. Go ahead, subpoena Valve for 100 Steam users' identities and do whatever the hell you want with them, apparently. Go ahead, sue Jim Sterling for $15 million instead of $10 million, which is $15 million more than what you probably deserve from him. Go ahead, do all those things, because we don't really care about people's right to free speech. We don't really care about people's right to have an opinion. You are the developer of the game. You're a developer of this complete and utter trash that is your gaming division. Go ahead, sue all you want. And Valve said, you know what, if you're gonna play like that, we are going to lay the smackdown on you before the judges are able to do that. We're taking your stuff off of Steam because, first of all, we should have done that from the get-go. And how did this get so bad, Valve? What the hell? You let them go through Greenlight. You let them get approved through Greenlight. You even had the gall to put them up there. You even had the gall to let them do that in the first place. And this got to a point where at least 15 different games were on the Steam store, and you waited this long? You waited until you were subpoenaed by them? As hilarious as this may be for them to actually attempt this, you wait until this in order to say, you know what, you are not worth our time or effort? You wait this long? Is this showing you just how bad the Steam Greenlight system is as far as your curating content? You're letting stuff like this onto your forums. You're letting stuff like this onto your store. Please get control of this, Valve. You got to, or else things like this are going to continue to happen. And they have continued to happen, and now you have proof that they are going to do anything and everything. Digital Homicide is not a good company. You should have seen this from the get-go. You should have seen this from the slaughtering grounds. You should have seen this the second Jim Sterling got attacked by them for just simply saying his opinion about them. This is ridiculous in every form. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets a little bit scary, is that what if the judge comes in and says, you know what, we're going to award you this money? Then what happens to other critical reviews? What happens to other critical viewpoints? This is going to set a precedent, and it better be the right one, because what happens if they come down and say, Digital Homicide, we think you are entitled to this money, which they are not? You know what's going to happen? Other companies are going to come down. Other companies are going to say, you know what, we deserve money for people's negative opinions about us too. And they're going to start trying to sue other people that are on the Steam forums or on the Steam reviews sites who are saying that a game's crap or a game is not worth your money. And they're going to say, hey, this is damaging our credibility. This is damaging our profits. Which, by the way, this $15 million, that's how much damage you think you lost because of what Jim Sterling said about you? Is that how much you think you are owed from him? Dude, have you looked at your game? Have you seen what you've done with the slaughtering grounds? Have you seen how right he is? And maybe you don't agree with every single thing he says politically, and maybe you don't agree with maybe the wording of what he said to describe what he thinks about Digital Homicide. But you know what? Digital Homicide brought that upon themselves, because all he did was say that was a poor game. That was a horrible game. And lo and behold, Digital Homicide did the one thing that no one should be doing, that everybody knows by now is the worst thing you could do as a video game developer if you see someone criticize your game, which is to use the DMCA takedown system on YouTube. But that's exactly what Digital Homicide did. And Jim Sterling went back and forth with them to try to get that sorted out, and all he got was utter crap from them, as if they didn't know anything about anything. And that's why he said the things he did. They brought it upon themselves. He was reacting to it. They provoked him into that sort of frame of mind. And you know what? I don't blame him for that. Yes, emotions ran high, but at the same time, Digital Homicide should have let it alone. Or maybe make a better game. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that should be the thing that they did, is to just make better games. Why go through all this? Why try to, instead of making your relationships between the people who buy your game and you a little bit better, why try to alienate whatever is left of your fan base, assuming you had a fan base to begin with, even more than you already have? I mean, you're trying to say that Jim Sterling lied about you taking image assets from Google and he lied about that? Have you seen the soldering grounds? As I've said, the proof is right there. The white is right there. Seeing that you did not even crop those right, that they were horribly cropped. Of course, he found that out. You put out game after game after game after game. Before anybody had a chance to even look at one game, you come out with another one. Are we sitting here seeing you do this and not think that perhaps something is not correct with how quickly you're putting out these types of games and how little of time it takes for you to develop for these games compared to how long it takes for a normal game company, a normal game developmental studio in order to produce a indie game, let alone a AAA title? Are you expecting us to believe that you could just put out game after game after game like this and us to not be suspicious about where you're getting these assets, where you're getting these images, where you're getting these graphics or the sound or anything along those lines? And then you're gonna, instead of making amends with the people who have been unfortunate enough to buy your horrible games, instead of doing that, you go and you sue people because they call you out on your BS? Here's the thing, when you try to stop, I mean, to the people who think that this is not an actual lawsuit, that this is not an actual thing that is taking place, that we are just being trolled, there's actual court documents that have been released that you could actually go review. I'll link you to them in the description below this video. A YouTuber by the name of Sid Alpha has actually done the work in order to get these posted onto his Google Drive, and I will link you those in the description below this video because you need to actually see these to believe that it is actually a real thing. They have actually went through the legal process in order to formally file these. These are real lawsuits. These are not something that is set to just troll people. But this is something they just need to stop doing now, because they are just going to get egg on their face as long as the judges do their damn jobs, which unfortunately I could probably see them, if they're willing to let them go forth with the subpoena, they're letting them go forth with the lawsuit instead of laughing in their faces. There might be a slim chance they might actually get their money. They might actually win the lawsuit, and that is a horrible thing. I have talked a lot about the where's the fair use thing, and yes, I am a proud supporter. I am proud to admit that. I am not going to stop supporting that because I think it's a good thing for YouTube to finally have fair use be recognized when you talk about the DMCA takedown system and how it operates and how it is so unfair to users of YouTube, and how YouTube refuses to admit that they might be wrong sometimes when they go about saying, hey, we've changed these things, we've changed some things about how the strike system works because we know some people make mistakes. No, maybe you make mistakes, YouTube, and this is one of those things. If you go around and you give Digital Homicide, people like Digital Homicide, wherever they want on a silver platter, things like this happen. I know I'm jumping around a little bit on this particular story, but it just boggles the mind that they might actually get away with this. They might actually get away with a frivolous lawsuit, and that's exactly what this is. This is a frivolous lawsuit. It should be considered nothing but that. I mean, if this ends up with them winning, look what might happen to people like Jim Sterling, to people like Total Biscuit or myself or Jesse Cox or whoever else might want to say that a game is utter crap. Look what might happen. I've said that before. Look what might happen. Look what might happen to people like Doug Walker, like the Angry Video Game Nerd, like any of those other people, like PewDiePie. I know they might not do year-on reviews, but look what might happen if you criticize a game and these people win, and then you go and criticize the game. Look what could happen. The scenarios are real here. The scenarios are not something that you should take lightly. This can actually happen if Digital Homicide is actually successful, which they should not be, because this is a horrible thing. I am laughing at this, somewhat laughing at this, because they might actually be successful, but if it is, there's going to be bedlam happening as a direct result. And I could see if it was one or two people that they were suing that maybe they were concerned about the actual language that was used instead of the criticism in and of itself. This is 100 people on Steam. This is 100 different people. What makes you think it is just the language that was used? What makes you think it was just how they worded their criticism? I don't think they have a set precedent between what's legitimate criticism and what's actual harassment harassment in this case. I think they believe that any form of criticism is against their own rules, and apparently they got the judge to believe him on the subpoenas. And I want to know what made Valve decide that this was worthy of putting them up onto their Steam system in the first place. What made them think that these types of games were any way suitable to be put onto any store shelves, much less Steam? Come on, Valve, you have to be much better than this. You gotta be much better than this. As I said, this should be a direct lesson to you guys to not give people like these the time of day. Do not give people like Digital Homicide any form of room onto your Steam system, because if you do, you're gonna get stuff like this. This was basically shovelware. They are putting out pure, unadulterated shovelware, and they were allowed to get away with it because Valve's greenlight system let them do that. The way that it was set up made them able to get away with this, and now possibly being able to run away with 18 million, 15 million, maybe more than 25 million if both of these lawsuits get put their way. There's a ton of people to blame when it comes to how this was handled, about how things became the way they are right now. Hopefully the judge sees it the way they should see it, which is Digital Homicide are a bunch of douchebags that need to be taken down a peg and put in their place. Let's hope to God that the judges who are going to see these cases do the right thing, like Valve did, even though it was a little bit later than all of us might have wanted them to do that. And that's gonna do it for this edition of the special report. Thanks again for watching. I am sorry that I sound a little bit nasally. I just got over a bit of a cold. I don't know where I got it from, but it happened. And so not only was there a lack of videos, but whenever I try to speak for long periods of time, holy hell, there's a lot of coughing going on. But hopefully things get a whole hell of a lot better and I can get back to the groove of things. Go ahead and like this video if you did like it. Hit that like button. It helped me out a lot. Also, please comment on what you think about this story, about what Digital Homicide is trying to accomplish and what Valve did in response. I would like to know what you think about this, because it is pretty damn laughable at best. And also, please go subscribe for more geek gaming culture. I put videos out as much as I possibly can. It does help me out a lot, and thank you already if you have. Thanks again for watching. My name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.